Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a truly fascinating and honestly terrifying strategic paradox in modern geopolitics. Imagine pushing hard for a conflict, actually succeeding in your lobbying, and then suddenly realizing you might not survive the very reality you just helped create. Well, that's exactly where Saudi Arabia finds itself right now. We're going to look at their conflict with Iran and how this military tension poses a massive existential threat to the kingdom's ultimate economic dream, Vision 2030. And by extension, we're talking about the stability of global energy markets that literally affect us all. Let's dive in. To really wrap our heads around Saudi Arabia's current reality, think of this famous idiom, the dog that caught the car. For years, the kingdom wanted its main regional rival, Iran, to be seriously weakened. They chased that objective relentlessly. Well, the car has been caught. The Iranian regime has been weakened by US strikes. But here's the terrifying realization analysts are pointing out. Saudi Arabia is now trapped right next door to the volatile fallout of that success. And dealing with the unpredictable aftermath of a weakened, cornered neighbor? That might actually be way more dangerous than dealing with a strong one.
Section 1. The Lobby for War. Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand that the kingdom wasn't just sitting on the sidelines watching this recent escalation unfold. They actively helped bring it about. Take Prince Khalid bin Salman, the Saudi defense minister and brother to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Reports show he actually warned U.S. officials about the risks of not attacking Iran, so they were actively lobbying for military strikes. From their perspective, a nuclear-armed Iran is an absolute existential threat to the Saudi monarchy. They wanted that nuclear threat neutralized, and they desperately wanted the regime weakened to secure their own borders. Makes sense on paper, right?
But here's the profound irony. The kingdom got exactly what it asked for. The strikes happened, and the regime took a hit. But, geopolitics is basically never that simple. The resulting reality isn't some perfectly neutralized threat. Instead, they're now dealing with a deeply wounded, highly desperate neighbor. And guess what? That neighbor still has an arsenal of medium-range ballistic missiles that can literally blanket the kingdom's critical infrastructure. So the threat wasn't eliminated at all. It just transformed into something way, way more unpredictable.
Section 2. The 2019 Warning Template. Let's look at a historical precedent.
To really grasp this new, transformed threat, we have to look back at the event that is definitely keeping Saudi planners awake at night. Back in 2019, Saudi Arabia suffered a massive, coordinated attack on its Aramco oil infrastructure, specifically targeting the Abqaiq processing facility and the Khurais oil field. This was pulled off using Iranian Shahed drones and cruise missiles. But here's the absolute kicker. These drones completely bypassed Saudi Arabia's state-of-the-art US-supplied Patriot air defense systems. The shield failed, and those Iranian drones that pulled it off, they're still fully operational today.
The key number to remember here is 5.7 million. That's how many barrels of oil per day were knocked out of global supply because of that one 2019 attack. Just to put that into perspective, it wiped out roughly half of Saudi Arabia's entire oil production at the time. That proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Iranian proxies and Iran itself absolutely have the technical chops to strike the economic heart of the kingdom and trigger massive global disruptions. But guys, it gets even more alarming, because it's not just oil on the line. A staggering 60% of Saudi Arabia's drinking water relies entirely on highly exposed desalination plants. So imagine a strike hitting those facilities. You aren't just messing with the economy anymore. You are instantly triggering a massive humanitarian and survival crisis right in the middle of the desert. It's a terrifying 1-2 punch of vulnerability.
So, let's step back. We have a heavily exposed nation, completely reliant on vulnerable infrastructure, sitting right next to a wounded adversary. Which brings us to the central question. Can a kingdom at war build the city of the future? This is the core theme we're exploring today. Because literally everything Saudi Arabia is doing right now is tied to one ultimate, massive economic objective.
And that brings us to Section 3, Threats to Vision 2030.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has pretty much staked his entire legacy on Vision 2030. It's this incredibly ambitious plan to pivot Saudi Arabia from an oil-dependent kingdom into a fully diversified modern economy. But here's the catch. A multi-billion-dollar tech and tourism project completely depends on foreign investors actually feeling safe. While Aramco's oil fields and those desalination plants are definitely at risk, the new high-value targets for any retaliation are the Vision 2030 projects themselves. We're talking about the neon megacity construction sites or the massive Red Sea tourism developments. Think about it. A single missile strike on a neon site wouldn't just cause physical damage. It would instantly trigger a massive flight of foreign capital, basically shattering that economic illusion overnight.
When you map out the logical progression of Vision 2030, step one is the absolute prerequisite. You have to secure regional stability. Without that, you literally can't achieve step two, which is attracting massive foreign investment. Capital is cowardly, right? It actively runs away from war zones. And without that foreign direct investment flowing in, you simply can't reach step three, economic diversification. So by actively lobbying for a conflict that destabilizes the entire region, analysts point out that Saudi Arabia has basically made step one impossible, putting this whole chain reaction in serious jeopardy.
Section 4. The impossible position.
This brings us to the core paradox of this whole explainer. Saudi Arabia is caught in a devastating geopolitical trap. A lot of analysts argue that a strong state actually has infrastructure and an economy to protect, meaning you can deter them by threatening to destroy those things. But that strategic deterrence completely breaks down when you're facing an adversary with its back against the wall. A severely weakened regime altering its strategic calculus, maybe feeling like it has totally exhausted its diplomatic off-ramps. That is infinitely more unpredictable. So what exactly is Saudi Arabia's insurance policy here? Well, it's relying on the U.S. military umbrella. The kingdom has essentially bet its survival on the assumption that the United States can and will protect it from Iranian retaliation if this conflict widens to the Gulf states. But here is the realization that changes everything. As we saw back in 2019, that U.S. defense umbrella is essentially untested against a massive, coordinated drone and missile swarm. It's a huge structural gamble.
Ultimately, the Saudi strategy relied heavily on this hope that U.S. strikes would permanently eliminate the threat right next door. But that gamble didn't pay off. The regime is still there. And the terrifying reality for the Crown Prince is that every single day the Iranian regime survives is another day that the entire multi-trillion-dollar Vision 2030 infrastructure is sitting out there, totally exposed and well within range of retaliation.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. In their desperate attempt to neutralize a geopolitical threat and secure their future, has Saudi Arabia's pursuit of security actually guaranteed the destruction of their Vision 2030 ambitions? Like we said earlier, they wanted to catch the car, they caught it, and now they have to figure out how to survive the crash. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. This is a complex, rapidly evolving puzzle, so let me know your thoughts on what happens next. And as always, keep learning.